our newly independent country. "Let's hope we can secure the Beira pipeline from further attacks," Daddy said, while wiping his hands on his orange overalls. Daddy and the chief constable looked at the cortina as if they were expecting some response from it. The cortina was gleaming proudly in the heat. The chief constable coughed and cleared his throat. "Well, Mr. Bishop, this is a very sad business we have come about. Roxy, our Jack Russell Terrier, who had been sleeping in his kennel, came running out at full speed. He leapt and landed on a police foot and began vigorously licking the boot. The policeman hopped and skipped and wagged his foot, but he couldn't shake Roxy off. Daddy finally managed to pull him away while trying hard not to laugh. "We are looking for evidence," the chief constable started again, once Roxy was safely in Daddy's arms. "We have thoroughly investigated the Mackenzie property, and now we are checking all the neighboring land. We would like to take a look by the perimeters." Daddy took them to the back of the house, where the two juniors cupped their hands under the tap at the end of the vegetable patch and drank as though they had not seen water for a very long time. The chief constable looked at them and shook his head. He drank slowly from the glass that I had brought out to him. Then they all walked along the fence that separated our limestone pink Spanish colonial from the Mackenzie's whitewashed Cape Dutch. Their black boots kept getting sucked in and stuck in the mud as they trudged about looking for the evidence, because Maposa had just watered the vegetables, even though Daddy was constantly telling him that watering at the hottest time of the day was a treacherous waste of a precious natural resource, and that even the borehole could run out of water. After one walk through, the evidence was still missing. The chief constable said that was quite all right. They had obtained a confession. He took out his notepad like Columbo, and he asked Daddy if he had heard or seen anything strange at the neighbors on that night or before. Daddy quickly said no, not at all. And then he invited the chief constable, who was one of his best customers, for some tea. Daddy worked for the telecommunications branch of the post office, making sure that the phone system worked throughout Bulawayo and the rest of Matabeleland. Sometimes he got calls in the middle of the night, and he had to take off to the exchange to fix something. But he was also good with other things like radios and TVs. He had passed the City and Guilds of London Institute exam in electrical repairs. He did up the boys' kaya with electricity, so that Rosanna, who lives in that small room, is much better off than the real maids and gardeners who have to stay in them. They have to use candlesticks and paraffin stoves, and sometimes they don't even have proper toilet facilities. Last year, with the help of some apostolics, he built his own workshop between the boys' kaya and the chicken pen, using asbestos roof sheeting and bricks that were made by the apostolics in their yard. The chief constable dismissed his juniors with instructions that they should type out a report, ready for him when he got back to the station. He stood with Daddy by the fence. "Our white people are losing direction left, right, and center, Mr. Bishop. Independence has confused them." Mummy, Daddy, Rosanna, and I had watched the independence ceremony on TV over 2 years ago now. Prince Charles looked rather sad when they gave him the British flag. His mouth was set very firmly, as if to make sure that he would not cry and disgrace the Queen. All the previous week, the Herald had had a list of white Zimbabwean beauties who would make a perfect bride for him. Mr. Robert Gabriel Mugabe took his oath, his hand firmly on the Bible, and so help me God. And Zimbabwe was born. Daddy and the chief constable washed their hands under the tap. "He was smelling heavily of smoke, shaking non-stop. You could think he was suffering from heavy-duty malaria. We have never had any problems from that place before."